In 1999, Garth Brooks was the top-selling solo artist of all time. He was a juggernaut, especially in America's heartland. He didn't write his own songs, but like a good preacher, he could really work a crowd. Then, in 1999, at the peak of his popularity, Garth had a crazy idea, and no one was willing to tell him no. Garth decided to put country music down for a while and create a fictional rock star alter ego by the name of Chris Gaines. Amazingly, Garth wrote a screenplay, a detailed bio, 2 music videos, and a fake VH1 behind the music for Chris Gaines, but apparently didn't want to write any songs for the character. Other people like Gordon Kennedy and Wayne Kirkpatrick could do that. Garth did, however, decide to write in the liner notes about how he would have written the songs on his album had he been Chris Gaines. For example, for the song Unsigned Letter, Garth writes the following in first person as Chris Gaines about a woman who never existed who helped him through a tragedy that never happened. That is just one of 13 stories Garth concocted about how he would have written the songs had he been Chris Gaines. Even the most hardcore Garth Brooks country fans were baffled, but things were about to get even weirder. Garth started releasing biographic details about his alter ego on his NBC special, which in the words of Jon Stewart, we couldn't possibly care about because Chris Gaines doesn't exist. One thing is clear, at least part of the impetus to create the Chris Gaines character came from a script called The Lamb, which Garth had been writing and developing for several years with his production company Red Strokes Entertainment. Before you scoff at Garth Brooks becoming a major Hollywood actor, consider this. Garth was offered the leading role in the movie Twister and turned it down, and Steven Spielberg offered Garth the role of the sniper in Saving Private Ryan. But according to the CEO of Garth's production company, Lisa Sanderson, quote, Brooks refused to accept the role, indicating that he wanted to be the star and was unwilling to share the limelight with the ensemble cast. If the public knew that Garth was being offered legitimate roles in Hollywood, maybe his attempt to build buzz around his screenplay The Lamb and its leading character Chris Gaines would have seemed less like Alteregomaniac. Garth developed the screenplay with Jeb Stewart and a man named Kenny Babyface Edmonds, who produced 4 of the 13 songs on the Chris Gaines Greatest Hits album, while Don Was produced the other 9. Garth's label, Capitol Records, described the album as a, quote, pre-soundtrack, unquote, in July 31st, 1999. And in his NBC special, on September 23rd, 1999, Garth announced that he was going to, quote, play a fictitious rock legend in a movie by the name of Chris Gaines. It seemed the stage was set for a full-blown Chris Gaines major motion picture, but the script was still under development, and according to the head of Garth's production company, Lisa Sanderson, quote, The Lamb did not go forward after Mr. Brooks released the soundtrack to negative reviews and under the title character's name, Chris Gaines, before the film was produced, unquote. The lack of the film left us with so many questions, like, why were Garth's fantasy parents Australian Olympic swimmers? And why did he dress like a French mime? And how did Chris feel when he lost his dad in the winter of 1990? We have some insight into the latter from Lisa Sanderson's sworn testimony about a pitch meeting she had with Garth and a Fox 2000 executive concerning The Lamb. Quote, Brooks presented the music he had in mind and stated that the music was especially important to him because the music expressed many of the same feelings that Brooks felt when his father died, and then he began weeping openly. Sanderson was thunderstruck since she knew Brooks's father was alive and well in Oklahoma. While the pitch meetings were happening, Garth was bringing the character of Chris to life. He shot album covers spanning Chris's fictional career from 1986 to 1999, along with 2 music videos. Garth Brooks played a 32-year-old Chris Gaines in the music video Right Now, but he decided he needed a younger actor to play Chris Gaines in the fictitious 1986 single My Love Tells Me So. And in his unchecked egomania, Garth cast the actor who played a young Brad Pitt in 7 Years in Tibet to play a young Chris Gaines. The project culminated with the perplexing and entirely fictional Chris Gaines VH1 Behind the Music, and somehow Garth and his people convinced VH1 and celebrities like Billy Joel and Don Was to participate. Garth dressed as Chris Gaines amidst a backdrop of candles and talked about how his sex addiction almost killed him, how he brought a chainsaw on tour, and how he never got to say goodbye to his beloved bandmate Tommy Levitz, who died in a plane crash. All the while, the VH1 music is playing, and the announcer is narrating exactly like every other VH1 Behind the Music you've ever seen, and it aired on television with no explanation, as if it were a regular VH1 Behind the Music. Garth steals beats from other artists behind the music. The proverbial rockstar plane crash? Check. The crazy touring antics? Check. The car crash? Check. He even stole part of Tom Petty's behind the music where his house burns down. That's right, Chris Gaines' fictitious house burns down. The only thing that Garth made up whole cloth was how incredibly successful every single one of Chris Gaines' albums was. One Chris Gaines album was apparently on the Billboard Top 200 charts for 224 straight weeks. That's a bit over 4 years. It's like if I wrote a fictional alter ego where I was a baseball player with dreadlocks, and I stated that in every game I hit a grand slam, except for that one season where my mom died in a water skiing accident, and my name was Rex Chase. So what can we learn from the Garth Brooks failed alter ego? The moral of the Chris Gaines story is, if you don't write your own music, if you just have a talent for singing and performing, and other people have written and produced your music for you, at some point you might attempt to get creative with the one thing you have control over, your image. And in an effort to be creative and reinvent yourself, you might try on an alter ego. But unlike Johnny Cash or Loretta Lynn, Garth Brooks was playing the character of a country star. He didn't really have friends in low places. The guy that wrote that song did. Garth Brooks is a glorified karaoke singer who's great at working a crowd, and if you look at it that way, it's actually not that weird that Garth would try his hat at being a rock star, only comfortable with writing a bio and designing a stage persona. But in doing so, Garth Brooks inadvertently tipped his hand and showed his fans that he was just an actor, playing at rock the same way he played at country. Remember, an album has two sides. Always turn it over and see who's writing the music. I'm Will Loomis, but you can call me Rex Chase. Thanks for listening.